Good evening. Hello. Welcome, all my artsy friends. This is sort of a kind of impromptu live that we don't normally do on Sundays, but I did go ahead and schedule this live for today simply because um, there are going to be some things coming up over the next week that is going to kind of change the schedule for the things the way we normally do things. So, this particular video, friends, is streaming on both Patreon for all Patreon members, free members as well as Creation Station members, and it's also streaming on the Thrifty Apprentice YouTube channel as well, so that everyone should have access to be able to kind of join in today. Um, Today, what we are here to do, now that I kind of have that announcement out the way about the break, the live break anyway, because it'll just be a break from lives. We are going to go ahead and jump into what we're looking at in this live. Now, not too long ago, you guys are aware that I did this huge order off of Amazon, consisting mainly of stick media. And one of the products I ordered was the 50 count of the I Crayon Water-Soluble Pastels. It comes in two different tins, 25 pastels a piece. One of them labeled the classic set, the other labeled the European set. Now, not too long ago, we had a video drop, which was sort of a showdown video where I showed you guys everything that was left to be kind of tested and reviewed. You all had a chance to vote on everything, and there were several things that kind of hit the top of the list and tied each other for the number one spot, and those were the Shinhan Professional Korean Color tubes, the iCrayon Water Soluble Pastel are the two that had the most votes. Now, because the Shinhan is, paints in a tube, you guys know I like to test and paint from dry down paints. I'm probably going to do that one as a pre-recorded video, just so I have a chance to let the paints dry down and get all parts of that video recorded. But for the eye crayons, I didn't feel it necessary to necessarily do a pre-recorded video because, in all honesty, if you've been following the channel for us uh, any amount of time, you guys are gonna have to just bear with me. I'm still getting my thoughts together. It's still a little hard to work through things. We've kind of reviewed these under the Sunny watercolor brand. So what I wanted to do with this live today, instead of doing like this full-fledged, in-depth review, because we've already done that with the Sunny brand, and I will be sure that once this live is over, to link that video for the Sunny review in this video description so that you can check that out as well if you really want some super in-depth look at that. But anyway, so I figure what we do today is sort of an overview comparison. I kind of want to take a look at all of the water-soluble pastels that I have, and we're going to kind of look at just how close these water-soluble pastel dupes or brands are to what we know they're kind of emulating, which is the Caran Dache Neocolor II water-soluble crayon or pastel, if that's what you would like to call it. So that's kind of what this live is going to be a combination of. So we're going to just dive right into it and go ahead and do a little quick unboxing here. You're going to see two tins of 25 pastels, as I said before. You can see from the front of each tin, it does show you a little diagram of the pastels on the inside. Now, before I move any further, the reason I call these a dupe is because you have to see how close they are to the things we're going to be comparing them to. For instance, looking at the tin of the iCrayon, and then here I'm going to sit the tin of Sunny Water Soluble Pastel. And this is going to kind of explain why I say one brand is exactly like the other. Because if you pay attention to it, the iCrayon Classic set and the Sunny Classic set are the exact same, except for it's 25 here and there's 12 here. You can actually get the 12 count under the excuse me, iCrayon brand, which you can also order off of Amazon. Now, the Sunny brand comes from Temu. I did go back to check out the Temu site to see if I could possibly find um, better bigger sets under the Sunny name, but I couldn't. It's still only that 12 count set. So I had to do a little bit more research, dig a little deeper. And what I've come to find out is that Sunny itself is an actual manufacturing art company. So it might not be as well known or as popular as some of the other major Chinese brands that we know. Uh, but it is its own brand with its own factories, and it actually white labels. So after doing some researching and some reading, kind of some comparison between founding dates and who released what, when, and here, I've kind of come to an overall educated conclusion that Sunny uh, is actually producing and white labeling this particular set of water soluble pastel for other brands. One of those brands being the I Crayon budget label itself. Now, Sunny you can find on different websites, and they'll sell their products without any branding on it at all, almost like you're shopping like a manufacturing whole site, like say, for instance, Alibaba. You can go to Alibaba and find many different manufacturers that you can get products white labeled on under. So that's sort of what the whole Sunny conglomerate is doing over in the Chinese market based on my research. So it's my wholehearted belief that Sunny is the manufacturing plant that is white labeling for any other budget company that you're seeing under this. And I'm just going to leave that there because, of course, we know that those are all dupes, so to speak, and they're all trying to emulate the Caran Dache Neocolor II. So I'm going to go ahead and pull out the Caran Dache Neocolor II. I have a regular set of 15, so to speak. But I've ordered a few of them open stock, so there's actually more than 15 crayons in there. And I'm going to be opening that up in just a second. So, of course, this is the Caran D'Ache Neocolor II 15 count set, what the 10 looks like. And you can see that overall, they all sort of look the same. They all sort of give you the same feel and idea. Of course, the Caran D'Ache is Swiss made, and they actually make another set of water soluble pastels or crayons or sticks, if that's what you want to call them, that are actually called the Swiss made Swiss colors. So I guess you can consider them like maybe I don't want to say a student, but yeah, more like a student grade line to the Neocolor twos. You can find those here and there. I think you can find them on Amazon as well, and they tend to be a little bit more affordable than the actual Neocolor twos. I just do not happen to have a set of those for this particular kind of showdown in comparison. Um, so that's what these are emulating. But we're going to be looking at so much more than just these particular sets. We're also going to compare them because they are labeled water soluble pastels to other water soluble pastels that I have here in the studio. And we're just going to see which ones are the best overall as far as the quality go. So when you pop open the iCrayon 10, on the inside of the tin, you get a swatch sheet, which I've already filled out. You're going to get 25 pastels, a water brush, and a pencil sharpener. However, when my sets arrived, only one set was necessarily put together that way, and that was the Europe set. As you can see, the Europe set has 25 different colors in it, a water brush, and a sharpener. However, my classic set had 26 pastels in it, no water brush, and a sharpener. And I was kind of okay with that, that it's missing the water brush because in my head, logically, it would cost more money to produce that pastel than it would to produce this, the little plastic generic water brushes. And you can literally pick these up from the Dollar Tree, two or three in a pack for like 125. The difference is this particular type of water brush has a little stopper on it, so you can pull the brush apart and carry it separate with water still being in the barrel. But again, I was okay with the fact that the water brush was missing out of this particular set to give me an extra pastel. You know, Swatch them out because they do come with swatch sheets on the inside. Now, the swatch sheet that comes included in the iCrayon set is going to be more cardboardish, more of your cardstock. I say cardboard, excuse me, cardstock like paper. It sort of puts you in the mind of a Bristol board, but it's not quite as thick. So I'm thinking that they just included a more heavyweight cardstock type paper. Definitely not uh, necessarily water soluble, but you can use mild water on them, which is kind of the case when you're using a water soluble pastel. You're not trying to use lots of water. So I guess this made sense to a certain degree. But when it comes to water soluble products, I always suggest that you swatch them out on the type of paper you're going to use the most because water soluble products do have the tendency to fool you. Once water is added, it can shift in hue, which is why it's always great to swatch them out. You don't necessarily have to follow that rule as much for, say, your solid media, for instance, like your oil pastels or your color pencils, because typically you can look at the lid or just look at the product and the color you see is the color you get. And that's not always the case with water soluble products. So again, I'm going to stress definitely swatch them out. Now, inside each of those containers, there is this little thin palette included. This one's a little dirty because I've already kind of played around with these, and I'll kind of show you what I made in just a moment. It was nothing, you know, we'll talk about it in a second. But there are these little plastic palettes included. They're thin, but they get the job done. And you guys have heard me make this suggestion many times, especially when we were using like the Sunny crayons or the Neocolor IIs, is to kind of take you a palette and kind of abrade it with sandpaper. It makes it easy for you to use that to grab the pigment with and make washes. You can actually sharpen your crayons into the well of an empty palette and sort of use it to make a makeshift gouache palette with. And these are just ways to help you use up all of the medium versus, wasting any of it. So those are just all suggestions. But these little thin ones come with like an abrasion built in that helps to do the exact same thing from the sandpaper suggestion. So you're going to have those in here. And you're paying about somewhere between 22 and $25 a pop for each of these sets. At least that's kind of how it was at the time that I ordered them anyway. Um, so those are kind of the content. That's kind of what the product looks like. Now, if you were to flip the tins over on the back, you're going to see that there's sort of a difference between the classic and the Europe set. Now, on the back of the Europe set, I do believe, yes, you're going to get like all of these diagrams, sort of like major landmarks, different places that the color palette for the Europe set was pulled from, stimulating combinations with monumental works that can color the thought of the artist. Inspired by the palette of over 1,000 European buildings, our 25 meticulously curated colors are the results of advanced AI data analysts. These hues represent the most iconic architectural shades found across the continent. Experience the seamless blend of colored pencils, oil pastels, watercolors, charcoal pencils, and crayons. So they're basically saying that the crayons can be used in 5 different ways. Our innovative formula delivers a silky smooth texture, allowing you to effortlessly capture the intricate, I always have trouble pronouncing that word, intricate details of any building, from the play of light and shadow to the subtle variation in texture. Now, as you can see, the classic doesn't have nearly as much information. As a matter of fact, most of the information on the back of the Classic 10 is written in different languages. The only thing written in English says unleash endless creativity, 5-in-1 drawing tool, crayon, oil pastel, colored pencil, watercolor, charcoal, switch freely. Of course, you're going to get the manufacturing information on the back of both tins, which ironically enough, we're going to talk about in just a moment when we start comparing. It gives the address, some different symbols letting you know that they subscribe to recycling, and yeah, everything else is UPC code. And that's pretty much all of the relevant information per se. So that's what the back of the tins look like. Let's take a look at the actual pastel itself. So here you have a full-size crayon-looking pastel that is, of course, wrapped in its own branding. In this course, I Crayon, which is printed on the crayon. You're going to get the color name, the color number, and the color name again written at the bottom of the crayon. Now, these particular wrappers are made just like the Caran Dache Neocolor II. As you can see, they have the perforated peels on it so that you can move the paper away as you use the media up going down the stick. Now, if you compare these to, say, like a regular crayon, here I have a Crayola. So here's a Crayola, and I'm just going to hold that up to the eye crayon. So that you can see with the water soluble crayon, you're definitely getting more product, definitely longer, a tad bit wider, and of course, the wax-based crayon will not dissolve or blend or spread with water the way the water-soluble pastel will. But I just kind of wanted to show you the comparison in size to a regular crayon. Outside of that, that's the relevant information that you get there. Of course, is no light fast, no pigment information included on these budget sets of crayons. And the little information that goes down the side again just kind of tells you the different ways you can use it. And that's the wrapping. That's the presentation that they give you straightforward. Now, it is my hope, sincere hope, that if anybody decides to order one of the iCrayon sets, that you will get it the way that it's supposed to come, which includes the 25 colors, the brush, and the sharpener. But if you happen to get a set that comes like this one did, where you're going to get 26 pastels and a sharpener instead of a brush, I wouldn't necessarily complain about that because you're going to get the extra medium. So, there's that. All right. So, of course, I took time to swatch the crayons out on the paper type I use the most, which is 100% cotton watercolor paper. Let's just take a look at that swatch sheet here. And as you can see, between all 50 colors, there is a beautiful range. The classic set kind of gives you all the colors that you would need for um, any of your basic illustration. You don't have a huge gap and jump of the colors in the different range. And then, in my opinion, the Europe set kind of fills in the gaps. It fills in the in between colors of the primaries, but it also gives you all of these additional beautiful shades that you typically probably wouldn't find in a normal set, especially a normal set of classic or standard colors, which kind of gives you a lot of different range when you're using these products if you have both sets. That's not to say that you could not get completely by on just using the classic set of 25 or the Europe set, depending on what you were trying to illustrate or trying to draw. Now, I did swatch each one of them out, and the difference being that this water-soluble pastel, when comparing against the golden standard, being the Neocolor II, is actually a softer product. It goes down on the paper much softer and much more creamy than a Neocolor 2 will. The difference being that a Neocolor 2 is much more water soluble than your normal budget grade or budget released water soluble pastel or crayon. Now, I did get all of them blended out and I was able to fill in the tooth of the paper in each of the swatches as I blended. For these, I did use a golden Teflon brush in order to dissolve the pigment or to disperse the pigment, should I say, because they don't tend to blend as well as the Neocolor tubes. So you do need a bit of a stiffer brush. And I will say that with like the Neocolor tubes, they tend to blend out to be more of a water soluble or give you more of a watercolor effect. Whereas these don't blend out as well, and they sort of give you more of an oil pastel effect that's blendable with water than, say, blending down to a watercolor effect. Hopefully, what I'm saying is making sense. So, after doing this, I was like, okay, wait. What I really want to do is kind of swatch all of these out side by side, but not just these brands because they seem to dupe each other, but all of the water soluble pastels that I have just to see How they compare as far as smoothness, softness, creaminess, and blendability goes. So that's sort of the bulk of what we're going to be looking at today. So let's just take a look real quick at the Sunny brand in comparison, since this the one that I feel like is mostly related to. So if you pop open the Sunny brand, I've already removed everything out of here, but inside it was basically the same type of black tray and the exact same type of small, slender palette that was sitting on top of the crayons. Now, let's just see. This is a Sunny. As you can see, it looks exactly like the I Crayon. Every single exact detail, every single place, all the writing is put in the same place. The only difference is the Sunny branding versus the I Crayon branding. Let me see, what is this? This is they call it Sunny Yellow. Let's go to the classic set and pull the yellow. And they just call it yellow. They don't call it I Crayon yellow. They just call it yellow. But let's just take a look here. Seriously. Other than the fact that the writing on the I Crayon is white and the writing on the Sunny Crayon is black, all the way down to the water soluble water soluble symbols to let you know that you can use water on the product. It's exactly the same. It's just a different color writing. That's it. Same way perforated paper is designed. So without a doubt, it is my opinion that these are the exact same crayons. So if you have the Sunny crayons already, then you have the I Crayon. If you have the I Crayon and you don't have the Sunny, don't worry because now you have the Sunny. It's all the exact same. No doubt in my mind about it. Now, if just for quick reference, let's pick up. I happen to have a Caran Dache in here because I didn't put them all back into the right tin. But this is a Neocolor II. Look at that. Eggs. No doubt that those crayons are a dupe of this one. So let's grab. This one is a Neocolor II. This one is a Sunny. And this one is a I Crayon. Are these all the same colors? Let's see. No, that's scarlet. That one's called Fruity Orange. Ooh. Okay, let me put the Fruity Orange back and see if I can find the same colors here. Okay, Red Kiss. That's about the same color. And the Caran D'Ache, that's vermilion. Um, but you get the point. You can definitely see that these two are made to emulate this one. This is it's actually uncanny how close they all are. But the but that's just as far as the way that they look. Now, other crayons that we are and before I do that, let's look and see manufacturing for the Sun. Look at the back of this tin. What does it look like? The back of this tin looks exactly like the back of the classic I Crayon tin here. Manufactured by the exact same manufacturing company under the same address, except for they rebrand the I Crayon to have the manufacturing, or should I say, the address for their headquarters versus the headquarters for Sony. But the manufacturing company and the distributors are the same. So yeah, absolutely same crayons. I honestly believe that. Now let's look at the other crayons other pastels we're going to be looking at as we start to do our little swatch-a-thon here. So I figured it would probably be smart to just kind of compare anything that's considered a water-soluble pastel to itself. Now, as you guys know, I also have the Faber-Castell watercolor crayons. I have the Sargent Art watercolor crayons. Um, and I have a 15 set of the Faber-Castell. I think I have like a 12 count of the Sargent Art. And then we're also going to be looking at the Mungyo water soluble oil pastel. And then I also have this brand known as Liquid Draw water soluble oil pastel. So we're going to be looking at all of these in comparison, swatching them out side by side. I'll tell you how much each one of them costs, which one of them I think is the best quality, and what hopefully giving you the information you need to go in the direction for the one that's going to work best with your creation style and best for your pocket, because that's what it boils down to being about, right? All right, so let's go ahead and let's see. Let me find Let me get, this is a block of paper I'm working on. So let me get this top sheet off. We're going to get some lines drawn here, and then we are actually going to start doing some comparison and taking some notes of these different ones. Um, this is not necessarily a technique video, although I will be doing certain techniques in this video just to see how the different crayons compare to each other. And then I'm going to be hopping off because I probably need to do a call with my family. All right, so I'm gonna grab a ruler here. We are finna make a couple of lines on this paper. Lines on the paper. What am I gonna use? Am I gonna use a marker? Might as well. Let me see if I can reach one. So let's see who is gonna stand up. What's gonna stand up to what? Let's see. Does it make sense to be paying what companies like Caran Dache charges when you have so many other options on the market that may actually work just as well? Now, I'm saying all of this. Make no mistake, I'm still buying all 84. Make no mistake, I'm still buying them. But I want to make sure that you guys know that there are options. And maybe I'll leave that little corner. Let me see. We have iCrayon. We have Sunny. We're going to have Mungyo. We're going to have Liquid Draw. And am I missing a brain? Excuse me. I guess we have to put the Neocolor II down. I mean, we can't not, right? We can't not. So we'll have the Neocolor IIs. And I think that those are all the brands we're comparing. Am I missing one? Okay, yep, I am. So I'm going to divide this off, and we'll put Faber-Castell up here, and we will put Sergeant Art down here. And let's get to swatching and testing, because we don't want this to be too long. I'm gonna put the Europe set to the side because I don't feel like we'll necessarily need it. I'm gonna start off with opening up the Sunnies, which I said has Neocolor IIs in them. I think I've gotten the Sunny and the Neocolor IIs mixed up in their tin because they do look so much alike. Actually, I'm pretty sure I have. Let's see here. That's Karen, Karen. Okay, maybe all those are Karen, because like I said, I know I have more than 15. They are. All right. And I threw the extra Karen over here. I'm just gonna separate them all for right now. That's Sunny. Told you I have a lot of Neocolor twos because I ordered them open stock. I was so crazy about that crayon when it first came out. 19, 11, 12. All right. So Sunny, Caran D'Ache, I Crayon. See if I can get everything on camera. Sorry about that. I was trying to zoom out a little bit. Let's see if I can get everything on camera. Can you see that? Maybe I'll turn it this way so we can see them. Um, let's see. And then I want to bring over these. And let's get to swatching. I'll have to reach behind me for the other ones because I'm not going to get them all on my disc. And let's start out with the I Crayon. We're just going to start so you can kind of see how it lays down on the tooth of the paper. Keep in mind, this is a 100% cotton paper here. And we're going to start off with the I Crayon. We'll just grab, I don't know, this yellow. Let's start with the yellow. Hopefully you guys can see. If you can't, please let me know and I'll try to turn on some studio lights. And every now and then I'm going to actually hold the paper up to the actual camera so you'll be able to see a little bit better. So that's the eye crayon and we're going to swatch it out by the sun. Now these are super creamy and soft. As you can see, they just kind of glide across the paper. I don't have drag on the paper at all. And I do believe that they cover pretty well considering the fact that this paper is really toothy in texture. Now, those two have a much more creamy consistency to them. They just like the what was this? So the next one is going to be the Mungyo water-soluble pastel. So for the Mungyo water-soluble pastels, they are much thicker. Look at this. So let's compare this to a Sunny or eye crayon. So you're getting, I would say you're probably getting more pigment in the Mungyo water-soluble pastel than you are in like the Sunny, the I Crayon, or even a Karan D'Ache for that matter. You're going to get the Mungyo branding. Of course, it'll give you the color name, and it gives you the AP seal of approval and the stock number for the color. That's sort of what are on these. These do not come with light fast or pigment information either. They are just as smooth and creamy going down on the paper. And if I had to just really be honest with you, I feel like of all of them, these are the softest and they cover the best. If I'm just going to be completely honest about it. So we're going to put that one down there. Put that back. The next one we're going to put down for comparison is going to be liquid draw. And I did that on purpose because ICrayon, Sunny, Mungyo, and Liquid Draw are all actually considered water-soluble pastels, whereas Neocolor II, Faber-Castell, and Sargent Art actually labeled their product water-soluble crayons. Not to say that there's a difference, I'm just throwing that out there. So let's go ahead and take a look at a Liquid Draw water-soluble oil pastel. Look at that, so much different because it actually looks like the standard ideal oil pastel that most people um, are used to seeing when they hear oil pastel or when they think about a crayon, right? These two are super creamy and soft. They go down so well on the paper, they just kind of glide like butter. That's not quite the same hue as the rest of them, but we'll get the point. Now let's swatch beside those the actual crayons. This is when it shifts a little bit because I've noticed the ones, excuse me, that are labeled crayons outside of the Faber-Castell actually have a bit of a harder texture to them on the paper than say what's labeled a water soluble pastel. And I don't work for any manufacturing company, so I don't know what would make a company classify one water soluble pastel versus water soluble crayon. Um, because based on the formulation I was able to read, they all have about the same amount of oil versus wax ratio to hold it together into a solid stick. And the oil is what helps keep it soft and creamy, right? So if you were to grab a Neocolor II and swatch it out beside one of the other ones, you're going to notice right away that it feels drier. It feels a little bit harder on the paper. There's a little bit more drag to the product going across the paper. There's a little, it just seems um, like it doesn't have nearly as much oil in the formula as any of the previous four did. Then when you switch over to the Faber-Castell, let's take a look at that one. As you can see, almost the same way. It's got the perforated paper to help you peel away at the pastel. You got the name on here. You got the company logo on here. But this one is actually advertised towards kids versus the way the rest of them may actually be targeting more of the fine art market. This particular one, again, drier than any of the ones labeled soluble oil pastel or soluble pastel. This one has the same type of drag, the same type of feel on the paper that the Neocolor did. Um, and it covers as about as much as the Neocolor does. Now you're asking yourself, okay, Thrifty, we see you swatching all these out, and we hear you talking about the texture on the paper and how it goes down and how smooth it is. But what's the biggest difference between all of these? Well, the biggest difference between all of these, in my opinion, is going to be their solubility, the way they actually blend out when you add water to them. Now, for the final one we're going to swatch out for all of this, it's going to be the Sergeant Art. Now, here is a Sergeant Art water-soluble crayon. I do believe that this is white labeled by Mungyo. So if you have the Mungyo water-soluble crayons, which is different because they actually produce the Mungyo water-soluble crayons and the Mungyo water-soluble oil pastels. The water-soluble crayons is going to be closer to the actual Sargent art crayon. Now, of all of them, this is probably the driest one. And if I had to say, I would actually compare this one more so to like a watercolor pencil lead than I would like a smooth or creamy watercolor crayon or water soluble oil pastel. Um, the formula for this one definitely reminds me much more of picking up one of my sets of water soluble pencils, watercolor pencils. So it just depends on the type of control that you're looking for when it comes to these different products. The harder it is, the more towards a watercolor pencil it leans. The softer it is, the more so towards a water soluble pastel it leans. So let's just hold those up so you can get a better look at the way they actually went down and blended out on that textured paper, how much of the tooth was actually left. And I did use the same amount of pressure on each one of those swatching squares. Now, what we want to do at this point is grab some water and a brush and let's disperse these. Let's see how they blend out. I'm going to grab a golden Tecline. And typically, whenever you're using a watercolor pencil, water soluble oil pastel, water soluble crayon, I recommend that you use one of your stiffer bristle brushes, a golden Tecline, or any nylon brush versus using your softer animal hair brushes. I just feel that it gives you more control and they blend out a little better. Now, when it comes to water-soluble pastels and crayons, one of the first rule of thumbs is that you want to remember is that although it gives you watercolor effects, excuse me, this is not watercolor paint, and you actually want to control the amount of water that you use. In cases like this, more water will actually wash away the pigment versus blending it out. So when it comes to products like this, I tend to use brushes that have shorter hairs, that are compact, tighter together, that is going to give me better water control. And even with those, I tend to remove water from the brush before I actually blend out the product. So I'm using a number one cat's tongue brush here. I'm just going to take my hand and just kind of ever so slightly pinch out a little of that water out of my brush before I go over here to blend. And we're going to blend out this eye crayon first. Because of the brush, it blends right out into the paper. It's almost like magic. From an oil pastel to a actual swatch that gives you the impression of a watercolor swatch. Very beautiful, very pigmented, got some really nice coverage to it. Look at that. All right. Now let's do the Sunny brand. Again, I'm gonna pinch just a little of the water out of my brush, and we're gonna go in here and blend. Whew. Yeah, definitely same crayon. They blend out the exact same way. I'm using the exact same amount of pressure. I have not increased elbow strength at all. My arm is very relaxed as I blend that out. So although they're not as soluble as say a Neocolor II, you do not get any risk or hand fatigue trying to blend them out, especially if you use, a harder bristle brush when you're doing it. So here we are going to swatch out. This is the Mungyo Water-Soluble Pastel. They actually label it Water-Soluble Oil Pastel. As you can see, blends out just as beautifully. And if you watch YouTube artists who use these type of products on a regular basis, you will hear them tell you that they're interchangeable. It really just boils down to what you're willing to spend, and which one of the brands is giving you the best bang for your buck. So here I am going to dissolve out the liquid draw. Now, of all the products that I have, these or this particular brand is probably the least soluble of them all. Although you can see it didn't blend out too bad there. I feel like I'm having to use much more elbow grease and put a little bit more strength behind my wrist, even with the hard bristle brush to kind of get it to kind of blend out. Once it does, as you can see, it covers the tooth of the paper just as well as the previous three did. Let's go ahead and blend out the Neocolor II. Now, I'm gonna be very honest with you. I'm barely touched. I'm literally I barely touched it. I am literally hovering my hand. The brush is barely touching the paper. And look at how that blends. This is probably the most soluble of them all. And the pigment blends and spreads so much further. I can just blend. Oh my goodness. Yeah. They're definitely what you're comparing everything else to. It blended out so much easier. I literally used like zero wrist pressure, like zero. I just laid the brush down on the paper and pulled the brush back and forth, and they blended out with absolutely no problem. Let's go ahead and look at the Faber Castell. Now, this is more of a kid's product, um, but as you can see, super pigmented, very rich, very beautiful. Blends out just as well as any of the rest of them. And this particular set comes with 50, and it's in their classic red box to let you know that they're not really targeting the professional market with that product. It is more so targeting, your student, your scholastic user, but they blend out so beautifully. Look at that. Look, that's gorgeous. And it's just as pigment, just as rich as the Neocolor II right next to it, or any of the other four that I swatched out before. I mean, that's pretty amazing. And then down here on the very bottom, we have the Sergeant Art, which is the one that I tell you reminds me a little bit more of a watercolor pencil with the hardness of the lead versus a pastel, but the blendability is still gorge, absolutely gorgeous, right? Look at that. So there shows you that every single brand we looked at is just as dissolvable as the other. Some of them are a little easier to dissolve than others, but they all dissolve and blend out to give you a flat watercolor washy effect, which I think is absolutely gorgeous. But we're not going to stop the testing there. Let's move on and see what they feel like blending into each other. So let's start with the eye crayon, and we'll blend yellow into orange into red. I'm just grabbing colors that are right beside each other. So let's do yellow. And we're going to see how this blends dry and then wet. We'll blend that yellow, orange into yellow, red into orange, and then we'll go back and blend yellow just to see what kind of color mixing we're going to get on the paper, right? All right, let's see what we get here. All right, let's start down here on this end, and we're going to just see what happens as we blend. How far can we go before we need to redip? Before that pigment does not want to merge into itself without another water, without more assistance from water. That's not too bad at all. That's not too bad at all. So there are definitely alternatives out there to the more expensive products on the market. Look how beautiful those blend. I'm gonna rinse. That red pigment is really strong. I'm gonna rinse there and take back up with that orange into yellow. Gorge. Very nice. Very nice blendability with that. Let's look at the sunny. We'll start with the yellow again. And we're going to blend that yellow into orange. Is that orange? I don't know. For some reason, I feel like it's the same crayon, I know, but maybe it's because I used the sunny first. Maybe that's what it is. Because I do not, yeah, they're the same crayon. It's the exact same feel under my hand, no matter which one you use. And the Sunny crayons were cheaper because I got them from Temu. Um, absolutely, they were cheaper. And I cannot find the Sunny brand on Amazon, just like I can't find the I Crayon brand on Temu. So, there's that. Blend this out and see where we're going here. And I actually did not pinch the water off of my brush this time. I literally just went straight to swatching it out. So these are a little thicker. They hook onto the paper a little bit more than like some of the other budget watercolor crayons we're going to look at. Um, because you can use a little bit more water on these than you can with some of the other water soluble pastels. But look at, oh, so pretty. So there are definitely alternatives to Neocolor twos. Okay, let's look at the Mungyo. And this is the very first quote unquote water soluble oil pastel I ever owned. And I still love them to this day. They are so creamy. And these are so inexpensive. You can get these in like Jerry's Autorama. You can get them on Amazon. And they are super affordable, friends. And I think it's like 12. Is it 12 or 15? We'll have to look it up. We'll look it up in a minute. But let's look at that. So creamy. They put down so much more pigment than any of the rest of them. They actually cover better than any of the rest of them. You get a much thicker coverage with the actual Mungyo water soluble oil pastels than you do with anything with any of the rest of them. Let me grab a red here. Is this a red? Yeah, this is a red. What color is this? Oh, it says red. Perfect. But look at the difference. It's so much richer with the pigment. And these will be really great for blending without using water too. You know what I mean? You can really blend these together. All of them you can blend together um, without really using water and use them in a more oil pastel way. You can actually use your oil pastel blending techniques with a lot of these. Like I can actually blend it together. Look at that with my finger versus using a wet brush. So if you're a person that likes to want to try to blend with a dry media and you're not necessarily sure if oil pastels are the way for you to go, then you can actually try the Mungyo water soluble oil pastels because they're going to blend out really great with water as well um, as a regular pastel. I mean, they all will. I just feel that this particular brand of everything on the paper is the most creamiest and the easiest to blend without water. That's just what that is. All right. Now, let me grab a brush and we're going to blend out that. And as you can see, quickly they start to blend and merge together. Not as soluble as Karan D'Ache. Nothing that I'm showing you is as soluble as Karan D'Ache. But this particular, of all of them, this one is the creamiest and the one that is going to work the best on its own as a regular oil pastel as well. So this one is truly the one I consider like a twofer. Uh, because I could very well have blended that entire thing with my finger, with mineral spirits, with a Q-tip, blending stump, paper towel. And as you can see, I can get kind of generous with the water on these, and it doesn't really lift the pigment away. It just continues to cause a blend. So, love those, love those. And the liquid draw is up next. Look how See, I'm literally able to move that pigment from one finger to the palm of my hand. They just blend out so well. Do I have a towel? I do here. All right. Next one we're going to be looking at beside the Mungyo is going to be the liquid draw. Now, these are the most affordable and the most economical of the water soluble pastels that we're looking at today. I actually received this set for my birthday maybe a year, 2 years ago. I don't use them much. I honestly forgot about them until I started to pull out all of the pastels I have in order to do this comparison. But they remind me more of the Mongia than they do of the Sunny or the I Crayon. If I had to say, the Mongia and the Liquid Draw are a little bit more creamy than the I Crayon or the Sunny. Just a tad bit more. Let me see if I can find a red here. And these are also super blendable outside of adding water to it. Um, they are pretty nice. And if I had to guess, probably target both the fine art and the kids market because of their price. They come. I've thrown the cardboard box away, but they come in a basic cardboard box with a basic cardboard box with this inside a sleeve, nothing fancy at all. So that is, and I'm just gonna blend it down with my finger so you can see that it will literally blend with your finger and cover the tooth of the paper. All right. And then let's mix a little orange into that, like we're making a blending ball, although we aren't. But just so you can see that they will blend together beautifully with your finger without using water. Okay. And then let's see what they will blend out with water. And they have a little bit more drag. I believe that the formula for these is maybe not as great as, say, the one, the formula for the Mungyo. So it does have just a tad bit more drag when you are dispersing the pigment out, but it's not bad at all considering the price you would pay. You would just have to be so much more, you have to be a little bit more careful, put a little bit more elbow grease and leg work into blending this particular brand than you would the Mungyo or the ICrayon or the Sunny, but you're definitely still going to get the exact same effects, and you would just have to take your time. I think that the pigmentation is pretty much the same. They all give you really great, vibrant colors, and because of the formulation, there is not going to be a huge shift or a shift from wet to dry that you really have to worry about. Now, those four brands are considered water soluble pastels. Now, the three we're going to look at now are considered watercolor crayons. So let's start with the Karan D'Ache, and I'm going to still grab a yellow here to start off with. Yeah, definitely drier on the paper. Definitely has so much more drag than any of the previous four we looked at. Let's put a blending ball down here. Let's see what we can do with our finger as far as Caran Dache goes. Dry, without water. Okay. And then let's do an orange one. Let's see. It's more red than anything. We'll go with this orange. This will work. Blend that into our yellow. Yeah, I'm gonna do two of these because this is the one that we're really comparing everything against, considering it costs more than any of the rest of the brands on the paper. Um, and then let's grab. That's a vermilion red. Let's go with more traditional red here. This one is it Rogue Scarlet? Let's see. This is Scarlet. Just want to see how they gonna blend here. Let's see about blending the orange into the yellow with just our finger. All right. Now, those actually look less pigmented than any of the rest of them when it originally goes down on the paper. Let's see what we got with some dry blending going on. Just using my finger to kind of take that pigment in a circle and see if we can get it to mesh together. Not too bad at all, but I'll be honest, they don't blend as well dry as the other ones do. Not as well dry. Okay, let's go ahead and do this one. See how we can get those to blend with just our finger. Because if you can take your water-soluble oil pastel, use it as a regular pastel, but still be comfortable knowing that you have the security blanket of falling back to blending it with water if you need to. That may open the door for someone who's been interested in just regular oil pastels to get their foot in the door with it, but know that you have a safety blanket of being able to blend it with water in case you need to. Now, here is the difference with these and anything else. It's when you bring in this water, the way that it just sucks down into the tooth of the paper and just blends together so seamlessly is what makes them what they are. And I still do not believe that they have a leg up on the rest of them so far as pigmentation goes, because I believe that all of these are holding their own as far as the vibrancy is concerned. But that yellow and that orange almost blended into each other, being nothing there. That's just how these roll. That's just how these roll. There should be a song. And that is the Neocolor too. But let me be very honest and very clear. I haven't experienced much difference doing that one than I did with any other previous ones. So, this race is really going to come down to very, very minute things. The most important thing being more than likely the cost of it all, right? So let's go ahead. Let's do the Faber Castell really quick. I'm gonna grab the yellow here. Make a little blend ball down here on the bottom. We'll just try this. We're going to try them all dry as well. Because if you can use it in more than one way, that makes it so much more valuable. Let me see. Do I have an orange? Like we have a vermilion in this set. So let's use the vermilion. Put that there to see how they're going to blend dry. Um, what I do with it? Here we go. And then let's put in the red. And these just have standard color names: red, orange, yellow. Because again, it is more of a kid set, but it doesn't take away from what it can do. Yellow on the end here. And let's just see how those are going to blend. Starting with our finger. Okay, now there's a huge difference. The drag on that one for dry blending. But as you can see, I still got those colors to merge together. It's a little bit more of a drag. But those colors still blended together dry just fine and covered the tooth of the paper with no problem. Let's grab that brush and see what we're going to do with here. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Beautiful blending here. Beautiful. Look at that. Still blends right down on the paper with no problem. Blend that back and forth a little bit. Make sure it's merged together. And then finish off with the yellow down here. Yeah, gorge. Gorge. I don't know. Close race here, friends. Close race here amongst these. This is, look at the blendability pretty much of all of them across the spectrum. That's pretty gorge. Okay, let's try our last one here. Our last one is going to be the Sergeant Art watercolor crayon, which I told you, in my opinion, is more like the lid of a watercolor pencil. But let's see how it stacks up against everything else that's considered a pastel crayon. See about a blending ball down here. It just feels drier. The pigment feels drier. I'm not sure if that's going to blend as well with my finger as the other ones did, but we will see in just a moment. This is more of a magenta than a red. Do I have a red? Let's see. Oh, there we go. And I'll put an orange into this one so we can see how that works. And then I found a color here. Excuse me. All right, let's see what we have here with our finger. A little bit harder to drag around with your finger, but you're still getting some blending. It's still covering the tooth of the paper. Still has nice smudging ability for that dry blending. Um, so it blended just as well as the Faber-Castell or as the Neocolor II, for that matter, dry. So that's nice. Now let's go ahead and blend this out with some water real quick. Very nice. Very nice, actually. Very nice indeed. All right, friends. And there you have blendability tests between all the brands. Very much so. Very, very good. Very good. Let's see. I need to, we got to be fair, right? Let's do a blending ball dry of the Sunny because we want to make sure that we've done the same across the board to everything. And then also the same thing for the I Crayon. And then I'll take my finger and blend those and see what we get. Nice. Very nice smudgeability there. Yeah, that's definitely the same texture, same feel, same same amount of resistance with drag. All right. And so there you have dry blending of each of the pastels into each other without using water on each of the examples. And then we have wet blending of each of the pastels into each other with using water and a hard bristle brush. In both cases, for all of the pastels, they all seem to blend just as well as the next. So there are going to be many options out there on the market. There are going to be many different pastels out there on the market that you can try that are super comparable to each other, and it's really just going to bar down to the price of what you're spending for them. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at the price of each of these sets. We're going to throw it down here on this paper, and then ultimately I'm going to rank each one of these brands from the top one I would choose to the bottom one I would choose based on creaminess, blendability, both with dry and wet, feel, and price. So let's jump over and just for kicks, we're going to use one site only, for this comparison. And I'm just going to jump over to Amazon. I mean, because I'm sure it's the one site you can get every single brand on. Well, except for the Sunny. So we're going to start with the I Crayon, right? All right, let's take a look here. And we're going to look up the ICrayon. The ICrayon Classic Set 25 water-soluble pastels currently runs whopping if I can find a pen here, right? Well, that's not doing it. And that's a brand new pen. Is that a doing? Yes, it is. I have been having so many issues with those Derwent Line Maker fine liners. And they've all been brand new. So yeah, there's that. So this one is 25, and this is a Pentel brush pen that I shouldn't even be writing with. Don't worry, I'm gonna get it together in a minute. 25.99 for the iCrayon, and it's 25 crayons in that set. This particular set, the Sunny set, came from Timu. That's the only way I've been able to, only place I've been able to find. There's 12 in that set, and I definitely gonna have to, because the one that I have Timu on is the phone I'm recording on. But if I'm not mistaken, I paid $6.99 for that set of 12. Next up is the Mungyo pastel. Let's see, water soluble oil pastels. Here we go. Yep. Okay, so there's 24. I knew it. So this is 18.99 for a 24 set. Let's try the. Let's see what liquid draw would run. Liquid draw oil pastel. Let's see. I hope it's still on here. Yes, here we go. So the liquid draw oil pastel, super soft, water soluble. There are 36. It's a 36 count, and they will hit you for $11.99. $11.99. Wow. All right. Then of course there is our Caran Dache Neocolor II, and you are going to get, yes, for 32.69. You get a 15 count. Faber Castell is going to be for 14.27. You'll get a 15 count. And Sergeant Art is going to be a little different. Sergeant Art has recently, over the last 6 months or so, gone out of business, if I'm not mistaken. I know you can still find their products here and there. I'm going to see if I can still find this set on here, the one that I have. No, not anymore. That set looks like it has all sold out. So, as far as the Sergeant Art crayons go, what you can currently get for $29.99 is a 24 count of these. But I'm more than sure that those are the Mungyo crayons. So if you wanted to buy them under the, well, that's about the same, I guess, because you can get them under the Mungyo brand. It just depends on which set you get. If you get the 36 count, you can get the 36 count for $27.99. or you can get a 24 count and a 10 for 18.99. Um, or you can get a 12 count and a 10 for 11.99. So if you can't find the Sergeant Art and that's the one you're interested in, just look for Mungyo water soluble watercolor crayons, and it's the exact same crayon, just under a different brand. All right. So here we have it. Let's just kind of recap. We're going to rank these. I know we've been on a minute, about an hour and a half, and then I'm just going to go ahead and wrap this on up. Now, guys, if you're here, you've been watching, you've seen anything interested that you like and found helpful, please don't forget to give the video a thumbs up. And if you care to, go ahead and share it because maybe someone else will love to see the comparison of these brands, so you can know what they'll know what's out there on the market. So let's break this down and get to it. First, we have the I Crayon. The I Crayon and the Sunny Crayon, without a doubt, are the exact same crayon. You just can't seem to find them in the same markets. The I Crayon seems to be what's available in the American market on American sites, and the Sunny Crayon seems to be available through Temu only in the American market. Now, if you live outside the United States, you may have access to the Sunny brand through other platforms or through other selling platforms. Um, but I definitely know you can find it on Temu if you're shopping from the American market and you're okay with shopping from Temu, because I know how some people feel about that site. That's neither here nor there, nor what the video is about. But you can get the iCrayon 25 count classic color for $25.99 versus the Sunny Crayon 12 count for $6.99 from Temu. Now, because they are the same brand, if you wanted to get the 12 count of eye crayons on Amazon, you could get the 12 count and it's going to look exactly like the Sunny 10. Let me show you here. So here's the Sunny 10. And here is the iCrayon 12 count 10 on Amazon. They literally look exactly alike with the exception of the brand name. You can get this set for about $6.99 over on Temu, but if you buy it under the iCrayon branded on Amazon, you're going to pay about $14.99 for the same 12 crayons. However, Temu does not offer a 25 set that I've been able to find of the Sunny, but you can, if you want a bigger set, get the 25 set of the eye crayons over on Amazon for the $25.99. So again, all of this is really based around your pocket and what you feel works best for you. Next up is the Mungyo Water-Soluble Oil Pastel, which comes in a corrugated two-piece box with a lid that completely moves. Now, it's my belief that you actually get more media with this particular brand than you do with any of the other ones that we looked at. This set is going to come with 24 of these enormous, gigantic, stuffy little sticks for $18.99. And when you break it down against the eye crayon, you're paying much less for the Mungyo. And in my opinion, you're getting more media, although there's one more crayon in the eye crayon set than the Mungyo water soluble set. Next up is the liquid draw. Now, if I just had to tell you the God honest truth, I think that this is probably the best bang for the buck because as you can see, it blends out just as well as any of the rest of them. It blends together just as well as any of the rest of them. It blends on its own without water just as well as any of the rest of them. And you're going to get 36 water soluble oil pastel in this set for $11.99. And it's going to look just like a regular oil pastel, but still give you all the same qualities as the rest of the water soluble medium we looked at. I don't feel like you can really beat that. Next up is the one that most people are the most familiar with. That is the Caran Dache Neocolor II. Now, it's comparisons like this that sometimes make me a little upset, and I'm going to be honest and tell you why. Because you pay so much more for the Caran D'Ache set, 15 crayons for $32.69, yet the blendability in comparison to everything else we looked at is not so dramatically different that I feel the money is justified. Now, I'm biased when it comes to Caran D'Ache, so naturally, I'm going to always recommend that brand. and it is the only professional brand amongst the ones that we looked at. Everything else is considered budget, which is why we're comparing it to the only professional brand that was included in this lineup. But when you look at the fact that you pretty much get the same result from other products, that you're getting higher counts in, so you're getting more product for a lot less money. It's just something you have to weigh out for yourself against your pocket, right? Next up is the Faber Castell water soluble crayon. Now, this is actually a crayon sold in their classic red packaging. So it's not necessarily targeting the fine art, so to speak, more so than the general overall art market. Now, you're going to get 15 water soluble crayons in this package for $14.27. Again, a great value when you look at what you're paying compared to what you're getting, right? So, I don't know. It's a balancing scale. Then, last but not least, we looked at the Sergeant Art watercolor crayons. You're going to get 24 crayons. Well, with the set that you're going to order now. With the set I ordered, this set was only like 12 crayons, and I may have paid like $7 or $8. So, if you can find the sets that have like the 12 to the 15 Sergeant Art crayons for that lower price, that's not in the tin, but rather in the cardboard box, but it's the same crayon, and that's the one you decide to go with. I say go with the one in the cardboard box because you're going to get the same crayons that come in a tin. You're just going to get it at a more economical price. Again, the drawback is Sergeant Art of all of these is the only company that I know that is kind of going away from us. So finding the products under their particular label and branding might not be as easy. So what I found on Amazon was a 24 count for basically $30, or you can get it under the Mungyo branding, where you get a 36 count for $2 less at 27.99. So if it came down to it, I would probably, if I was going with this one, get the Mungyo 36 count at 27.99 because that would be the best pricing for what you're getting when it comes to the difference between the Sergeant Art and the Mungyo. So, what's my final word? What's my final opinion if I had to rank these? Now, here's what I'm going to do. For this ranking, I need to make it clear that I am pulling my own personal opinion about my bias and what I happen to like brand wise out of this. I'm also pulling the bias of thinking that the Neocolor II is like the flagship crayon that everything needs to meet up to. And instead, as I rank these, I'm going to take into consideration how close they all are to the different techniques you can use with them, the number that you get per set, and the price. With that said, if I'm going to rank these, then and for my ranking, what I would put in first place would actually be the Mongol water soluble pastel. For this reason, you're getting 24 pastels. They are absolutely huge, lots of media. They blend out just as well as any of the rest of them with water, but because they seem to be the creamiest of everything that's on the paper, they also blend super well as just a regular oil pastel. And for an artist like me that works in mixed media, that is probably the most important aspect. I can use it in so many different ways. I can throw water on it to get it to blend. But if I wanted to do just a regular oil pastel painting, I could do that and they would blend together because the media is so soft and so creamy, better than any of the rest of them on the paper, in my opinion. If I had to move and choose the one that would be second in rank for me, and again, it's based on all the criteria that we have talked about, it's probably going to be the liquid draw. Why the liquid draw? Well, here you're going to get 36 water soluble pastels now, and this is right next to the Karan Dache. I need you to look at that. There is no more blendability in that Karan Dache than there is in that liquid draw. None whatsoever. They're both on the same 100% cotton watercolor paper, so it's not a trick of the eye or anything. Here, The liquid draw is 36 for $11.99. Let me repeat, 36 for $11.99. I do not think that they are as creamy as the Mungyo, but you're definitely going to get the same effect that you would get here. You're just going to get more than you would here. Something to keep in mind. Take this information and definitely use it to make the best decision for you. If I had to go from the liquid draw at this point is when I would pull in the Caran Dache. Now you're asking yourself, Thrifty, how is it possible that your favorite watercolor crayon falls in third place behind two others? Here's the reason why. You know that I'm already always going to tell you to buy the best value first. It's not about my own personal opinion and personal likes. It's about the fact that when it comes to the art market now, prices fluctuate so much. There are so many choices on the market. And I really want to try to help you guys find the best quality for the lowest cost. And that's just not what's going to happen with Neocolor tubes. You're going to get the best quality. You're just not going to get the lowest cost of it. Okay? So that's the only reason it falls third. Not that I feel that it's not as good as Mungyo or Liquid Text. I actually feel that it's better because of the three, it's the most soluble as far as water goes. But it falls third because of the price. Of everything that's on this paper, it's the highest, and you get the least amount of pastels or crayons with it. Let's just be direct and honest about it. So, although in my head it's my favorite, when I'm recommending it to you guys, it probably wouldn't be the first brand I call of these because you can definitely get a higher count at a lower cost that works just as well. All right. Next up, I would put at number four, Sunny and I Crayon. This is the exact same crayon, which is why they both get the same ranking. It really boils down if you go this route with whether or not you want to the money that you're spending. If you get it from Temu, you're going to spend less money under the Sunny brand than you would under the iCrayon brand. But if you're a person who has anything against shopping on Temu, then iCrayon on Amazon would be the way to go. After iCrayon and Sunny, I would go with the Faber Castell and then the Sergeant Art. Now, why did I put Faber Castell before Sergeant Art? Well, mainly because this one, in my opinion, still falls into the category of a water-soluble oil pastel or crayon with the rest of them, whereas the lead of the Sergeant Art or the Mungyo, if that's what you want to call it, really puts me more in line of a watercolor pencil, although it the size of it and the way it shapes and blends out is more like a pastel. Then you have to couple in the fact that Sergeant Art has now gone out of business, so you can really gonna find scarce sets here or there, not unless you order it under the Mungyo brand. But Faber Castell, you're gonna be able to find pretty much anywhere, including your regular big box stores like Walmart, Michaels, Target, if you shop in places like that. But you can only get the Faber Castell in a count of 15, whereas the Sergeant Art, because it's white labeled by Mungyo, whereas Faber Castell produces their own products, you'll be able to get a Sergeant Art or a Mungyo in different size sets, be it 12, 24, 36, and I'm not sure if they have a set bigger than 36. So there you have it, friends. That's how I would rank things in comparison to the crayons, water soluble pastels that we've looked at today. I'm really hoping that this has been helpful to somebody in some shape, form, or fashion. I understand that we didn't actually do any artwork with the products today, but you guys know there's going to be artwork all over the channel done with these crayons. You can search the Thrifty Apprentice YouTube channel, and you will find illustrations or something with watercolor crayons somewhere doing something. And then, of course, we're going to have plenty of videos come up in the future where we'll use these. And of course, in the future videos, you're more than likely going to see me using many of these brands together because the quality of the products are so similar to each other. So, Mungyo, Liquid Draw, Caran Dache, I Crayon or Sunny, Faber-Castell, Sargent Art or Mungyo. Either way you go, you cannot go wrong. You just need to make the decision of what's best for your pocket at this particular moment. So there you have it, friends. So, friends, thank you so very much. It has been such a pleasure. I want to take time to thank everybody once again for your condolences for my family. I will keep you guys briefly updated. If you follow me over on Instagram, you can keep up with what's going to be going on over the next week if you care to. Of course, it won't be a lot because a lot of it's going to be, private family stuff. But I kind of will keep you guys apprised of how the trip goes. I am going to try to get some creating done. I don't know because it's just my outlet to make me feel better about the things that the family is going through at the moment. So definitely, creation can be a great outlet. So that will, I will be doing some creating. I just wanted to let you guys know that next Monday's live, both here on YouTube and on Patreon probably won't happen next Monday because we will be traveling back to Texas from Mississippi at that point. And I'm pretty sure that after all the driving, we're going to be pretty tired. So I did want to say that. Thank you so much. Hopefully, the information you found in this video was helpful. Don't forget to give the video a thumbs up if you were here with us live and you enjoyed any of the discussion that we had. If you're watching in replay and syndication, don't hesitate to jump in the comment section, ask any questions that you may have about any of these brands or any of my experience with them. I'll be more than happy to answer that for you as soon as I can get around to answering. If I'm not as quick on the draw after today's live with responding to things, I'm sure you guys will know why. But like I said, as of next week, I'll be back into full swing. You can look forward to the pre-recorded release video that's coming out this Wednesday. I am going to go ahead and finish that and get it up and loaded before we leave town, just to make sure that it's going to be available for you guys. Go out, enjoy your weekend, enjoy the rest of your week, practice, paint, have fun. Remember, practice makes perfect, and it's the only way that you're going to grow. After this live has concluded, you can check the video description for all of the relevant links, and definitely check us out over on Patreon if you want to become a part of the exclusive Patreon community where you'll get more in-depth tutorials, demos, perks, giveaways, and all those good things. In the meantime, my friends, remember that I artsy love you. And as I tell you at the end of every single live and video, just keep creating, my friends. Bye.